Okay, everyone, it's James Davis from the Pax8 Academy down here in APAC and joined by Nigel Moore from the Tech Tribe. Thanks for joining me, Nigel.
Thank you for having me on again. You're a glutton for punishment, pulling me back into this thing multiple times. You mustn't have learnt the first time.
I just love having you around, and the fact your hair is getting longer and longer, it just makes me look a lot tidier. So, it's a trade-off.
As I extend deeper and deeper into the depths of homelessness, it makes you look like you're a very well kept individual compared to me. You can. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, it's important for me to keep up appearances, so I've got to look around for other people to make me look better.
Well, you got the right one here. Nice and easy.
Oh, I appreciate your time and jumping on. I know you're a super busy man with the Tech Tribe, and it's going from strength to strength every year, which is awesome. I love the stuff you're doing for the community, and I thought I'd get you on and just share what you're seeing going on around the wide world in the MSP space, and just see if we can share some golden nuggets to help the industry. So let me lead off and ask you a question. Like, what do you reckon is the major thing that's impacting MSP owners that they're probably not thinking about?
I got asked this the other day again, and I'm not seeing any, like, apart from all the standard trends of shifts to the cloud, cybersecurity going through the roof, all of those standard things. There's nothing crazy out there. Like, it really is business as usual, and most MSPs should be focusing. And we were talking about this off air. MSPs should be focusing on things like not naming themselves an MSP anymore, because that word is kind of, or that acronym is kind of lost its year many years ago. But just it's a time where we've got this a little bit of uncertainty in, or not a little bit, a lot of uncertainty in the global economic markets, and I'm seeing too many people get caught up in that and take their eyes off just business as usual. And the smart MSPs that I'm seeing out there that are still having wild success and are still bringing on clients are the ones that are just focusing on those business as usual things and not worrying about these other crazy macro things that are going on. They're still tripling down on their marketing. They're still focusing on automating as much as they possibly can. They're still making sure that they're aligning tech stacks everywhere across things. And there's no rapid transformational things that they're looking at. They're literally just doing what they should be doing and not getting distracted by all these side bloody red shiny objects that are coming along left, right, and center. And honestly, I think we're in this space where uncertainty is one of these things that people don't know what to do in uncertainty. And it's like, oh, is this going to happen to us? Should we hold off and just wait and see what happens? And to me, I'm like, screw that. Like, just dive as deep as you can. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You're still going to be in there doing the best you possibly can and not waiting for any particular event to turn up. And to me, that's what it's more about at the moment. There's not any crazy global macro trends outside of what we all know that's happening in there and what everybody's working towards. It's I'm really seeing the smart MSPs are literally just doing what they should be doing, focusing on their business and automating and getting better at marketing and aligning their stacks and building their growth teams and all of those sorts of core things that everybody knows should be done. But too many are kind of, hey, in that state of, hey, let me just hold off for the moment to see what kind of happens out there.
Why do you think so many people hold off?
Because it's the easy thing to do, right? And because fear is a very powerful emotion, right? Like, fear is such a powerful emotion in all of us. Like, our biology and our great grandfathers and grandmothers had to look out for fear, like had to look out for situations where things would kill them, and so fear was a very, very important thing to feel back then, to run, so that if a buffalo came along ready to eat you or a saber-toothed tiger, you ran. Nowadays, fear exists via media throwing crap at us and economic markets being around or whatever. None of those things are going to kill us. Sure, they might make a little bit of pain and emotional damage, or not even damage, emotional pain in there, but they're not going to kill us. But our biology reacts the exact same way, and it's like fear, crap, step back, run away, retreat in there. And that's, I see so many MSPs that I talked with and work with that are in that state of I'm scared about what's going to happen in the future, so I'm not going to make any moves at all. I'm just going to sit and wait, and I'm going to sit here kind of in hesitation and trepidation, waiting for what the media tells me is going to change and what the media tells me is going to happen. When in reality, like push through a little bit of that fear and start to just get back into business as usual, like BAU, and start to dive back into building a good business and building the structure of things that you need in there. Just continually taking a step forward every day or a step up every single day in what you're doing in your business, whether that's creating more SOPs, whether it's building your growth engine, whether it's working on your pricing and packaging or whatever it is. Don't stop these things at the moment, because you need to be doing them, whether there's an economic landslide on the way or not. And the ones that are not doing it are the ones that are going to be so darn severely affected when we do get to that point, because they haven't done anything. They've kind of been like the deer in the headlights of not looking at things, and scares the crap out of me seeing some MSPs in that space, and worries the crap and upsets the crap out of me, because you can kind of just see that they're going to get hit by a car in a minute, and that car's going to bloody kill them. And even if the car doesn't come along and hit them, the alternative is they're going to just stand there like a deer in the spotlights for the next 5 years, waiting for a car to turn up and hit them. And that's not going to get them anywhere. So that's the end of my rant on that one. I see it happen so much, and I get it, because I was in that state myself. I started my MSP in the GFC, like 2008. And so I was a little bit of a deer in the spotlights then, and for a little bit, and I'm like, oh crap, should I hold off? Should I do this? Or should I, like, no point doubling down, because everything's going to change in 6 months' time anyway. But then I just went, screw it. I can either react like that, or I can just react by getting my head down, bum up, and just working through stuff. And it was awesome. Like the GFC for us was awesome, because there was all these clients out there looking for better IT support. I was a little bit cheaper then, because I was only getting started, and so people were looking for cheaper IT support through that process. But I was able to build an MSP, and it was because I didn't stop. I didn't take my foot off the gas. I didn't act like the proverbial deer in the headlights, and just decided to just keep marching forward no matter what the hell happened. Of course, back then I also had to feed myself, and so I was kind of fueled by food, a desire to eat, and I'd started my MSP with 50 grand in credit card debt, and working from my dining room table. So I also had that driving me to go through. It wasn't that I was super smart and was like making these macroeconomic decisions. I was like, crap, I've got to make this work no matter what. And I did. I don't know how, but I did. Well, I do know how. It's just that I got down and just did the damn work, and tuned out all of the stuff that was going on outside of me, like all of the media and all the rest of the industry. There was so many. I remember back then was when there used to be thought leaders in our industry, in the MSP industry, were very severely pushing out the MSP is dead mantra. It's like, the MSP is dead. It's not going to last any more than a couple more years. And I'm like, I just can't listen to that crap. I just got to get down and build mine, because I do believe that there's a long-term space for our industry. And there's still people out there saying MSP is dead, or whatever term you want to use for our industry, like IT service providers are dead, or whatever, TSP or whatever it is. There's still people out there pushing that mantra, but it's not. Like, the reality is small business will always need technology, at least for the next, until AI comes in and replaces everyone, but that ain't happening in the next year, 2, 3. Like, you've still got loads of time to go and build a business and create a business and double down and keep kind of a side eye on those macro trends, but don't keep your whole eye focused on those macro trends. Keep your whole eye focused on your business and working on what you got to work on in that, and listening to people that are growth minded and are moving forward and advancing, and hang around people that are growth minded, and go and aim for the best. Prep for the worst, or think that the worst might happen, but aim for the best and just march forward in that direction.
I think that's some awesome advice, Nigel. I feel the passion, because I feel the same way. I do feel like there's a lot in the industry that do have their heads in the sands in the wrong way, and aren't progressing. And I think one of the components of that too is it's a bit of the demographic. A lot of people have been doing this for so long. We've had to go through various iterations of our business. We've changed our business models. I'm with you. There will always be a need for technology solutions and advice and people to do that sort of thing in small business. But what our value that we produce and we sell and how much we price, that's the thing that changes. And I feel, get your opinion. Do you feel like there's a lot in the industry that are looking at that retirement point now, and they're expecting this high valuation and just this
Yeah,
magic
yeah.
setup to happen. Like when you're saying
Oh
the
yeah.
whole getting hit by the car and deer in the headlights, I'm like, oh, but that'll have a huge payout, won't it?
Yeah,
When it
no, oh
happens.
yes. I think you've probably seen this as well, but in the M&A space, there is a lot of movement happening between private equity coming into the MSP world, both at the vendor level and at the MSP level, and doing wrap-ups and whatnot. But private equity is not interested in the small MSPs. They're interested in the medium-sized MSPs and up. And so the smaller MSPs are typically in that world where they're getting bought by larger MSPs. And it's in those ones, like valuations are. I've seen some MSPs turning over like $600,000, not wanting to talk to anyone unless they offered them like $4 million for their MSP. And I'm like, geez, like you need to go and take a crash course on multiples and understand what multiples are. And they're not even like the owner of that MSP was making like less than $100,000 a year. And I'm like, my goodness, like you're not going to sell that for, you're going to sell that for less than 500 grand, let alone $4 million. And so that happens a lot, and that's just an unfortunate byproduct of people having incorrect beliefs around how businesses are valued. And it's just that they haven't dived in and understood how it works. And we're lucky that there's a plethora of information out there now around MSP multiples and even across different markets and even different sizes and everything to help you figure out what an MSP might be worth. And the ones that I'm seeing that have got these wildly inflated ideas of what their MSP is worth, they simply just haven't read some of that stuff. And I reckon it only takes you half an hour to kind of skill yourself up on the whole thing. Like pretty much there's sure M&A goes very deep, but to skill yourself up around how the multiples in the MSP world work, like half an hour of reading online with like Googling online will skill yourself up enough to really accurately be able to value your MSP. And have a really good idea of how you're going without having wool over your eyes and not spending the actual time to go and do it. It's just that lots haven't done it yet, and so they're kind of flying blind or listening to an accountant that also doesn't understand how multiples work in there. And I've seen that a number of times. Or at worst, friends who say, "Oh, you're running a business that should sell for easy multiple millions," and those friends have never had any experience in business whatsoever. And it might be that, or as I said, like a ton of them are people where they're only earning 100 grand or 200 grand a year out of their business, thinking that it's worth millions and millions and millions out of that. And as you and I know, reality is that unless there's some wild proprietary awesome stuff inside that business, the reality is it's not worth anywhere near that amount.
With all that in mind, what's your advice to probably the longer, more established MSP owners that are probably struggling for that bit of purpose, that bit of drive to keep going and keep pushing through things while we are going through all this disruption?
Yeah, that's a good question because I and that's a deep question because that's very personal to every single human that it applies to out there, and we've all got our own nuance for that stuff. That like in my scenario, when I worked in an MSP for about 6 years, then I owned my own MSP for about 8 years, so I was kind of 14. Is that 14?
Mm.
Yeah, 14. I had to do the math in my head then. But about 14 years that I was literally running an MSP. And so, and I got to that point where I had lost, like the love is what I called it. I'd lost the love of the day to day in there, or the running the thing. And at that point in time, I had tough decision. It's like, all right, Nigel, are you going to double down again and go through a next growth hump to get you to the next point in the business? Or is today the day that you start to figure out whether moving on from the business is the better opportunity in there or the better option, not just for you, but for your clients and for your staff? And that's more importantly what it's about. And I made that decision that I got to the point where like I had the idea of the tech tribe at that point in time. I'm like, holy crap, that excites the living bejeepers out of me going and doing that stuff. And I could not see a path forward for me wanting or having the energy that I had for building something like the Tech Tribe to go back in and build my MSP to the next level. I'd got it through a couple of different levels in there, and there was another 20 layers above me that I could have taken it to. But I personally had got to the end of my useful journey in there. And so people, if there's listeners listening to this, that they're at that point where they're kind of in no man's or no human's land, not knowing or not having the drive or whatever, you got to sometimes sit down and have that deep introspective look at yourself and what you want to do and start to make some movement. Because what happens, and what I've seen happen a lot, and a lot of the time it's horrible when it happens, is the MSP owner has known for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, sometimes 5 years, that they've lost the love, they've lost the purpose, they don't have the drive to go and do what they're going to do, and instead of them being able to sell when their business was at a good spot, they then have to sell when their business is at a crap spot. And that's because it's gone for 2, 3, 4 years of no energy leadership in it. And that means that they often lose staff, they lose clients, and they've got far less of a saleable asset than they did the 3 years before when they first started having those inkling feelings about, hey, it might be time for me to go and move my MSP on. And so my big encouragement out there is if you're in that kind of space, seriously sit down and consider it. And I know when I sold my MSP, we were actually looking around as well at because I was always growth minded and trying to be a realist at the same time. And I was looking around I'd always had feelers out for years of other MSPs that I was looking to buy. And they were smaller ones like 1 and 2 man bands, or 1, 2 human bands, sorry. And one of them came back to me at one stage and said, hey, would you be interested in selling your MSP? And I went, well, funnily enough, like the thought has kind of crossed my mind that I might be getting to the end of my journey in this thing because I've got other things that are exciting me more. So let me play that process out a little bit and see how far we get. And so instead of just going out to a friend or two that own another MSP and say, hey, I'm looking to be acquired, I went, well, if we're going to get purchased, we're going to get purchased well. And so I did what I put my marketing hat on. I'm a big fan of marketing. And I went, all right, I'm going to go and do a marketing campaign to all the best MSPs in Australia. And so I went and got a friend who was not working at the time, and we created a little website for him called Business Consultants of Australia, and set a domain name and a phone number and everything for him. And I put together this anonymized pitch deck of, I think it was probably like 12 slides or something that was completely anonymous, but gave the reader a good overview of our business. And then we got him to send it out to 300 of the top MSPs that we found around Australia. We created a list. I got one of the people on one of my teams in my other business to go and create a list of all the top MSPs via things like CRN and ARN awards and all of those sorts of things. And then that other friend of mine sent out this anonymized pitch deck that I put together and said, hey, I've got a client I'm working with who's interested in expressions of interest to sell their MSP. Are you interested? Here's a few details. And I think we sent it out to, it's whatever, 8 years ago or something now. And so my numbers are probably rusty, but I think it was about 270 MSPs we sent that out to. And we got about 70 or 80 people reply to that first campaign saying, heck yeah, I'm interested. Let me know more details. And then over a series of a couple of months, we went through a whole pre-diligence phase where we answered questions through my friend to all those people that were interested. They were asking all different things around all the type of stuff that we had in the business. And 2 people replied and said, is that Nigel Moore's business? And I went, oh, crap. Like I didn't anonymize it very well. But the rest, like we didn't want it to be public that we were for sale because there's some dodgy people out in the marketplace that the minute you're up for sale, they'll go and contact every single person on your testimonials page and say, hey, did you know that your MSP is up for sale? Here's the stuff. And so we didn't want it known that we were up for sale dramatically at the moment. But we went through that whole process, got down to about 30 people that were very interested in signing an NDA and going even deeper. And then I put together another more bigger prospectus after that. And we just ended up playing this kind of long-term game because we weren't in any rush, where we got it down to a bidding war of about 6 to 8 MSPs in this bidding war all around different price structures and deal structures and whatnot, and ended up selling to one of them in that particular scenario. And that got us a fairly damned good deal in comparison to what we would have got if I just went out to 2 or 3 MSPs or whoever I knew and just said, hey, do you want to buy me? Or gone out to worse brokerage networks because they're typically just selling to mum and dad shops that want to go and buy another Subway franchise. And so I went through that process, and my encouragement, the reason I shared that is if there are, because I know there's a lot of people in our industry that are in that space of not knowing what to do, but not knowing who to sell to or not knowing what the process should be. And that to me is a great approach to take if you're in that space. It takes a little bit of time up front, but not too much time. Like I wasn't highly impactful on it. And as I said, I got some help doing the process. I literally was just answering a bunch of questions via a Slack channel that they got back to. Like I might come in the morning, there'd be 1 question or 2 questions from the day before, and I'd answer them and move it along. And then we just enlisted the help of someone that could structure the deal, like from a legal perspective, and put it all together from there. But yeah, so that's like, if you are in that spot, that's a bit of an idea of an approach you could potentially take to help you get a good deal in there. If you're at that stage where before your business starts to landslide down into a worse spot than what you might be now, and then your asset value disappears.
I'm seeing what you're talking about with the value diminishing with owners that have switched off, one foot out the door. All it takes is a key employee to get sick of
Hmm.
it because, like you said, the vanishing leadership and purpose. Why do I need to be here if the owner's not here?
Correct.
All
Yeah.
those kinds of things. I've seen very high performing businesses collapse in half because of this sort
Yeah.
of
Right.
stuff.
It's ugly.
It is. I don't want to see it. Like everyone's worked so hard.
Horrible. Yeah.
It's been such a tough industry. We've had to adapt so much. We've carried the risks and burdens of small business for decades now. The owners should get a successful exit,
Yeah.
but
Agreed.
like you said,
100%.
it needs to
Yeah.
be deliberate.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'd ask you as well is one of the things that I notice as well, going back to your fear comments earlier on about like head in the sand with business development type stuff, is a lot of owners are struggling with that identity. They're an MSP owner and they have been for 20 years. What am I
Mm.
going to do
Yeah.
next? You
Yeah.
have that next sort of passion project
Yeah. Yeah.
where a lot of people don't. So
Oh yeah.
I
That's
don't know
that's
what you.
hard because
Mm,
I haven't been in the shoes of someone that, and I'm probably not well equipped to answer that one because I haven't been in the shoes of someone that didn't have the passion and vision for their next project in mind. I was very lucky that I did, and I was wildly energized by it as well. Um, and I have come across and spoken to a number of people that are in that exact spot that you mentioned there, where they've lost the love, but they've got no future love. They've got no idea of what they want to work on next. And I I don't know. I probably need to spend some more time feeling and sitting myself in that person's shoes to figure out how I would deal with it. Like one of the things that helped me, I guess, gain my passion around what was going to be next was that I I was whilst I had my MSP and I was running my MSP, I was also hanging out in all these other business communities out there and just learning and seeing and absorbing all the different types of businesses that were out there doing different things. And that's where I came across the membership, like community business model. And that's when I went, holy crap, that's awesome. I want to go and figure out whether I can solve that one next. It excites the crap out of me. And so I guess my first bit of encouragement would be to, if you are in that space not knowing what to do next, go and hang out in some business communities around the place and just hang with businesses of other types out there, and other business models. And if you're not at the stage where you're ready to retire yet, and you think you've got another game in you, another play at another business in you, go and hang out in some, and go to some generic business expos where there's going to be hundreds or even maybe thousands of different business types there, and hang out in the halls and the lunch rooms and whatever, and just talk, network, and see what excites you. And there is, like, to me, I look across, like, even with the tech tribe, I've got all these other exciting business ideas in my head at the moment for the next one, but I'm also luckily still equally as energized as I am for the tech tribe and building it out for the moment. But if the tech tribe wasn't there today, I've got tons of amazing ideas and whatever percolating around in here because of that deep, let's call it research or exposure that I've got to so many other things out there. And one of my other favorite areas to focus in is the longevity and anti-aging space. It's completely different to, well, actually, we say it's completely different to IT support, but the reality is it's doing an audit of a human and figuring out where their baseline is, and then fixing up their security issues, i.e. their blood issues or whatever it happens to be, and figuring out what their maintenance and proactive maintenance and everything should be. Like, it kind of actually does follow a very similar model to anti-aging and longevity. But that excites the crap out of me. I know I've hung out a bunch of time over the last couple of years in that space as well, and my time in the tech tribe will have a limit to it. As I said in my MSP, I moved out of it when I'd lost my love and passion for it, and or that love and passion was starting to wane. That hasn't happened in the tech tribe yet, and so this thing boils in the back of my head until such time as it does happen inside the tech tribe, and then it's time for me to go and move on to the next thing. And so my encouragement there is go and just seek other businesses and go and seek other business owners and see what's out there. I have seen. And I actually caught up with an old friend of mine who was an MSP, one of the ones that I was looking to acquire at one stage, actually, and a good friend of mine. I caught up with him a few weeks ago, and he went through that process and got to that exact point you're talking about, James. And his decision was to go and just get a job working as a contractor again. He'd been trying to build his MSP for years. He got to 2.5 staff. And he went back and went, all right, I'm just going to go back and try this IT contractor thing again because the MSP world is just too hard for me. at the moment, and he went back to that. And I caught up with him the other day, and he loves his job now. Like, he goes, "Oh, I get to work from home. I get to switch off at 5 p.m. I get to play with all the latest technology with massive budgets and all of this stuff." And so I think there's probably a lot of people in our industry where that's an option for them. Probably the biggest thing holding them back from taking that option is that it might have an ego hit to it. And I know it had an ego hit for him initially, in that, like, I'm a business owner and now I'm going back to being an employee. But the reality is he got over that ego hit pretty quickly, which is awesome. And he got to the point where he's now 10 times happier in his job than he was in his MSP. And the reality is it's more about the happiness than our egos. Like, if we can wake up every day and enjoy what we're going to do, and sure, it might not be our own business that we've done, or that we've built, but we've got more control over our days and more control over what we think about on weekends and everything, then that can be a win for a lot of people out there. And so it's all a matter of having that proper introspective time on you and your situation and what opportunities you've got available to you, and looking at the ego hits and things there and figuring out if that's an ego hit you can get past, and what you're really looking for. And there is worlds of options out there. You just got to spend some time in there and spend some intentionality in there looking at them all, and then moving in a direction and taking a few walks towards fear, because it's going to be fearful decisions you have to make or scary decisions you have to make in here. But there's that old, probably often overused saying of everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. And I often live by that mantra. Is like, whenever I see something that scares the crap out of me, it normally means that I've got to shine a spotlight on it and run towards it rather than running away from it. And I think that's probably would do a lot of people good, that if they've got something that's kind of scaring the crap out of them at the moment, instead of retreating from it, shining a spotlight on it and walking over towards it and seeing, hey, is this something we've got to dig a bit deeper into here, or make some tough decisions around this particular thing here.
It's wisdom, just the wisdom there, and the thoughts are awesome. And like I share a lot with owners around that identity crisis. Like you touched on the IT contractor. There's a lot of business. There's a lot of open roles for CTOs, CIOs, CISOs. A lot of the MSP owners have the tech background, have the knowledge, just need to invest in some upskill. And there's like 300 grand salaries at the moment that are running around. Like,
you're right.
Finding a job, I think, isn't the problem. And I think what you touched on is that ego hit. You know, we've been a small business owner for so long. Now we're not. We're just an employee.
Yeah.
Honestly, I got over it pretty quick. Not having to worry about 24/7 about making payroll and what my clients are doing and all of that kind of stuff. It's worth not having that burden. But like you said, it's very much that individual circumstances and knowing yourself, and only you can make the decision. And being deliberate only comes from you. If you aren't deliberate, then everyone else is going to make bad decisions for you.
Yeah, exactly. Here.
So we could go on, and I love talking about you, but I know our time's coming up. I wanted to ask you, if you're in the technology business world again and delivering services to clients, what would you be focusing on for the future? And this isn't not needing a dramatic shift tomorrow, but what would you be trying to build towards? What are you seeing? Where do you think the opportunities are?
So the number one thing that if I was to build an MSP today, I would be so ridiculously heavily optimized and focused on the customer experience more than anything else. It wouldn't be funny. Like the tools, the technology, the focuses like cybersecurity or whatever it happens to be, they all come and they all go and they all wax and wane. I would be so heavily focused on making my entire team and culture and everything built around delivering amazing customer experience. Like, I'm not talking about good customer support. I'm talking about an experience that blows people's minds to the point that they can't help but tell their friends about you. And that's the mantra that we've built in the Tech Tribe. Like, our goal is to build an offering so darn valuable that our members can't help. Like, they nearly feel guilty if they don't tell their friends about us. And to me, that's where you build an enduring business, and that's where you build a business of less stress, because your clients love you no matter how you're working with them, whether you're boutique MSP, whether you specialize in something, whether you're general, whether you're dealing with cyber, whatever it happens. If you're building that culture around experience and absolutely world-class, amazing experience, you're going to have a hell of a lot of fun. You're going to grow much easier because your clients are going to talk about you a whole lot more than they would if you're just providing fast IT support, because everybody's providing fast IT support out there nowadays. And I'd literally be tripling, quadrupling down on that customer experience side of building my business. And even in my MSP, I used to have the mantra, and I used to talk to my team about it, in that we're a customer service company that just happens to know IT. That's all we are. We're not an IT company that needs to get good at customer service. We're a customer service company that happens to be good at IT. And I would bring that mantra with what I know now and my marketing skills and all that stuff that I've learned over the years to just optimizing and building a company focused 100% on that, focusing on just caring so darn much about our clients and their businesses that care makes us grow like crazy and makes us have an awesome business to turn up to every day, because we're seeing the impact of the awesome stuff we're doing at our clients, and we're having fun. Like, you can have so much fun when you focus on optimizing customer experience versus optimizing how good your RMM tool does its stuff, right? Like, all of that stuff still has to happen, but it shouldn't be the culture of the business. Like, it shouldn't be the primary North Star of the business. It's all this ancillary things that go along with it. The North Star of my business would be that. Like, customer experience is number one. Doing every single thing we can to make that just darned world-class and awesome would be our number one priority. Hope that helps.
Well, I hope it does too, because I think it is so important, and we all know that we always say that we're a customer service or industry, but very few of us actually live that. It's always us and the technology first. It's very, very rarely the people that we're putting first.
Yeah. And I get it, because, sorry to rudely interrupt there. I'm known for being a rude bloody interrupter. I've got to change that one of these days. But my brain goes, there's a thing that I want to dive down to. But you're 100% right, and I get it, because our industry, by nature, we're all typically introverts, and we love technology so darn much that we default and retreat back to focusing on technology versus people, because dealing with people is often a little bit more of an energy suck to an introvert. And believe it or not, like, most people wouldn't see me on a thing like this as an introvert, but I am a raging introvert, like wild introvert. And so I've had to force myself to go and deal with that customer stuff. But it's only because I've got passionate about it, because I've seen the impact of what it does. And so I get it, how it can be hard to care about that or focus about that or put time and effort onto customer things when the default for us is to retreat to our area of comfort, which is technology. But that ain't going to build us a long-term future. It ain't going to build us an amazing business. It ain't going to rally an awesome team around us, and ain't going to have clients talking to all their friends about us all the time. It's and that's more of what drives me to go and focus on those things than trying to serve an extroverted need or whatever, which is I certainly don't have in there. So anyway, that was my rude interruption rant for you on that point.
It's not rude. You're just sharing golden nuggets. It's awesome. I Look, I really appreciate your time, and I hope people listening along have gotten some motivation, because it is a time of more disruption than any time, with multiple things coming at us. And I think all your advice around not putting your head in the sand and just slowly chipping away and progressing, continual improvement, is what's going to be successful. But as an owner, you need to have that purpose and that drive, or you should seriously question the direction of the business and the longevity of it in this dramatically shifting time.
We might have to look out. We might have started a revolution here, and there's going to be 50 or hundreds of MSPs up for sale tomorrow.
If they get successful exits, we've done our job, haven't we?
Absolutely, 100%. Like, I care far more about, even with our customers, I care far more about seeing people happy with what they're doing than caring about having a paying customer in my business. Like, if we can help them make a tough decision to close down their MSP and turn off their Tech Tribe membership, but they're a happier person at the end of it, awesome. Like, that excites me far more than money coming into my bloody bank account in there. So I think it's the focus on that is really what it's all about. People just waking up each day excited to do what they get to do, and helping whoever is in our world to go and do that, whatever way and direction it takes.
I know we could keep going. I get sucked into your passion, and I'll keep sparking your creativity on the spot. So thanks again for joining me, Nigel. No doubts we'll have you on again in the future.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.